Hello again. As you can see, we've got a bit of a change of scene today in that I'm joined by old friend and long-time guitar playing buddy of mine, Neil Johnson.
Hello.
Okay, and we get together a lot less frequently than we should because we're never in the same place at the same time, we're always busy. And when we do, we always talk about gear because we're both completely obsessed with guitar gear. Neil probably more than me, but neither of us have a particularly healthy obsession with the stuff. And I thought, seeing as we are going to get together today, why not do it in front of the camera? Because I've had quite a few questions coming in to PhatPhish through the Ask a Question link, which I'll put in the description section down there if you want to write in with a question. And I thought, rather than me just droning on and answering questions, we'll have a general chit chat about gear, talk about some of the stuff I've been getting asked questions about, and if you want to join in the conversation as well, post comments down there or send an email or whatever. It's always good to get feedback. So in terms of the sort of gear that we use, I've done videos before talking about my guitars and my pedal board sort of setup. Neil, you're a little bit more high tech.
Yes.
It's just below shot here underneath the amp. There's something. I'm not going to press a button because I'm frightened if I do press the wrong thing I'm going to declare war on China or something. So what's your approach to gear? Let's start with the guitars before we get into the super high-tech stuff. What's your main weapons of choice at the minute?
Well, I have a varied arsenal. Some of mine are behind, sitting on the wall here. My main working guitar that I play live a lot is this Tobacco Sunburst Strat. It's not particularly badly battered. I've had it for 20 years from new. I went in to buy a USA Strat and came away with this 57 Japanese, the one that's made in the Fuji Gem in Japan, and it knocked the spots off the American ones that I went to. It's full 50s profile. It's a lovely
57.
It's a 57. It's not a 54 reissue, which is obviously like the 60th anniversary one that they're doing now and 50th anniversary. It's a 57 reissue, two-tone sunburst. It is absolutely stock. There's nothing changed on it. The only thing, I've had to replace the volume pot once because I'm very up and down with the volume. I knock it off when I'm not playing. Everything else on it is as it was. Yeah. It's had one fret dress done on it, but it's still the original frets. It will need new frets at some point.
So I mean, really, that is your workhorse guitar.
It is fundamentally just a working bog standard Strat. Never thought that it would last as long as it did, but I will never get rid of it. I've recorded with it, I play live with it, I've done absolutely everything with this one.
I suppose it goes to show as well, it's like you say, you haven't had to mod it. It's stock as it came from the factory. I mean, this one I had custom built, and I probably feel similarly about this as you do about yours. That nothing has changed on it since the day I got it.
It's very strange.
But this was built to a spec, whereas that was Mr. Fender's specification.
This was exactly how they built them in '57.
Yeah.
Down to the pickups, down to the wiring, everything on them.
Yeah.
It wasn't an expensive guitar at the time. It was £400 when a USA Strat was 600. Mm-hmm. You probably double that now. You can actually get this now. Yeah. It's about 1100. Yeah. Built in Japan again, which is just crackers. You're talking about the custom one there. It's not here today, but I have a custom shop Strat that was made for me, and it's beautiful. But I don't use it live that often. I still always go back to this. I think you find that when you have a guitar, you always go back to it, and this is probably it for me. Saying that though, if we just swap over here,
with the magic of editing, back in the room.
This is the oldest guitar I have. This is a 1966 Telecaster. I've had it.
What year?
1966.
66. It's substantially older than us.
This will be 50 years old in February 2016. As you can see, again, this is battered. It has got a lot of road-worn scars on it. The chrome's coming off the pots.
I was playing that before, and it feels pitted. That's it's stage sweat and everything on it.
It's pitted, yeah. I mean, it is. You know, it's got the nitro on it's just gone to that yellow colour.
Which is the nitro. It ages.
It does.
Because actually we'll talk about that, the finishes on guitars. The vintage stuff is nitro, what we call nitro, it's nitrocellulose, isn't it?
That's a nitro neck.
Yeah. My Strat's next door, unfortunately. Yeah. That's what they call now, it's poly finishes, polyurethane
finish. Now this is, the body on this, it has been stripped before I got it, and then it was just refinished with the, just with a clear lacquer starting to go on the back from belt buckle marks. Other than that, it had, with it being 50 years old, it has had some work done on it. Everything up here, everything is stock all the way down. The tone pot's disintegrated. I have the original one still in the, if I ever come to sell it, someone can have the 60s tone pots, but they literally disintegrated. So I've got CTS pots on here.
Which are the pots to
get.
Yeah, because I've talked about this before about replacing bits on guitars that need replacing.
Yeah.
And what's the cost of a bog standard pot versus a CTS? It's what
£1.
Let you say less than the price of a beer.
Yeah.
You're daft not to spend that little bit extra to get the quality parts.
It's probably down to my playing. Whenever I'm doing it, I'm straight down with the volume and I'm straight up. I'm like that.
Yeah.
So my volume controls get an awful lot of wear on them. CTS pots work well. That's a CTS pot that's in there because that one has gone.
Replaced, yeah.
These have had both of them replaced. I did replace the wiring. I've got the original wiring for it, but I replaced it with 60 spec wax wiring, so it was exactly the same as how it would have been when it came out of the factory. The only other thing that's been done on here, which is, there's going to be some haters for this one, and I only did this on Boxing Day this year. I've long and hard struggled with this guitar from a sound point of view. I've got the original pickups, but they were always, the fundamental neck pickup was always just far too low output. And I'm not a treble player, so I don't like it on there.
Compared with Strat, so is that low compared to your Strat? Because I tend to think Strat's compared to like a humbucker guitar, the Strat's quite low output.
You can't see it, but in here, when we do some close-ups later, there's a boost in here, and the boost was purely for the Telecaster, so that I can actually take that out of the rack at the minute. And that was just so I could switch that on if I was using this, just to up the volume. It was so low. It was. So then I went and put like a higher output set of probably not that well known pickups called Tone Riders, which someone recommended, and they're good wax wiring, really good pickups, not massively expensive. They're about 60 or 70 quid for a set.
Bang for your buck, they're pretty good.
Yeah, I mean for the money, I mean they're half the price of a set of Fenders or custom shop Fenders. They're as good as output on that, but they still weren't doing it, and the neck was still that little bit weaker. And I know this sounds stupid, and some people say, well, buy a Strat. I always wanted to get the same sort of Strat sound that I get from that out of here. But the problem with that was, it's like this has got a completely different neck. It's got 60s profile, so it's much smaller. And
it all affects, I think, how you play. So you could say you wanted something that sounded like a Fender, but the neck feels differently, your hands react differently, and the final sounds different because the way you interact with it.
You know, this thing has got. I can understand once I bought this, and I've had this again for 15, 20 years. Is why people buy the older guitars. I always thought, like, why would you spend so much money on the older ones? Just very, very well made. You know, made in one place in probably Corona, California at the time. And the workmanship, because a lot of it would have been done by hand then. But anyway, going back to what I was saying was, pickups on here. So on Boxing Day this year, I put a set of Seymour Duncans in this. I thought long and hard, we had many discussions with regards to
I put less thought into buying this house than you did about buying those pickups.
Yeah, we had email conversations, we had all sorts. I'm thinking about putting DiMarzios in, putting a, you know, like, was it the Tone King and the
Tone Zone?
Tone Zone,
which is an awesome pickup.
Yeah. We had the discussions on putting those in. I tried that through.
That's the Hot Rail.
Yeah, the Hot Rails. Seymour Duncan Hot Rails. But I didn't want to completely take it away. He says, "We'll come to that guitar in a minute," which is the only guitar I've got with humbuckers on. And I thought, well, those are so high output, they sound more like that. So what I wanted to do was to keep the fundamentals of the a Telecaster, and also if it was a brand new one that was, you know, a couple of £100 from your local guitar,
other chain stores are available.
I wouldn't have been so bothered by not having the chrome pickup, but I thought because this is actually probably classed as vintage, I want to keep the looks the same. So apart from the fact it's got Seymour Duncan across that pickup there, if that wasn't there, from a distance, it still looks like the stock. The difference is on these pickups, These are massive magnets.
So what model did you pick at the end?
These are quarter pounders, and I must have spent 9 months looking for a set of pickups for this, if not longer.
The quarter pounder, it's a very high output pickup.
Yeah.
And I did a video just a few weeks ago now about pickups, and because they're so high output, it kind of gives you some of what you would get from a boot pedal or what you get from an overdrive pedal. It just pushes that a little bit more into the amp and it breaks up more naturally than you would with a Stompbox.
The beauty on this, and if anyone's got like an older Telecaster with a proper neck pickup, they'll understand, you know. I mean, this isn't a massively loud volume, but the bridge pickup, you know, D and A. You go to the neck pickup, there's no loss in volume whatsoever. So this is, you know, it's quiet. I mean, they're unbelievably quiet now that they got re-earthed.
Yeah.
I mean,
because what's the secret? Because they don't tell you this in very big letters in the Seymour Duncan literature, do they? No. You need to run. Yeah. This isn't just for sound as well. It'll stop you getting electrocuted. There's a wire that runs from that metal bridge plate.
Yeah. I mean, as standard, Fenders never used to earth the bridge because they never had any output. You never used to hear it.
Because there was a metal plate on the pickup, so you could earth the pickup itself.
Now what you have to do is there's a ground. You have to run the ground from the earth from there to there. What Fender actually do, and it's what I've done with this one, is they don't solder it to the bottom. You can't solder it at the bottom. So you put it over. It's just hooked over where the pickup hole is underneath the bridge. The bridge then goes down
so
and
it's squashed between the bridge and the wood.
On there and. Because when I first did this, like say on Boxing Day, it was a beautiful sound, but every time you went touch the metal, it was like the earthing was going on and off. Yeah. And then I realised that actually the bridge was never earthed.
And that's a bad sign because it's going through you.
Yes, I was grounding the guitar. It was using me as the earth. And swapping it over to this. This was a. I bought this one because I thought I think people tend to be a Fender or a Gibson person. And I'm very much a Fender person. My rack, which you can't see down here, runs into a blackface Fender Twin, and it's just that sound. It's just that sound of having a Strat into a Twin. But I felt that I wanted something with humbuckers. I got this to pick this up for a good price.
Because that was just rooting around the sales and want ads, wasn't it?
This was actually something that lived locally to me, who got it as a present and didn't want it. So I thought, well, you know, okay, I'm not going to lose a lot on it. I got it for a steal, and people think it's very surprising because it is a Les Paul. It is a USA Les Paul.
This isn't a knockoff chips and sort of.
This isn't something from Korea or China or a copy. This is a solid 10 pounds of mahogany. It's not chambered the way the studios and some of the traditional heritages are. It's very, very unfinished. It has no binding. It has no scratch plate. It does have full maple top that you won't be able to see.
I'll get close up with that. It is close up. It is quite a pretty guitar. It's understated, but
it's called chocolate. Is the colour that they did it.
It's like satin.
It is. It is the satin. It's one of the ones. Very understated. 120th anniversary on it. Big problem with this guitar was the frets. This had the biggest frets I've ever played in my life. These things were like bass frets. Yeah. That's the only way I can put them on.
Wide or high or
both?
Fat
that way. Fat that way. They were the 6105 Dunlop jumbo frets, which a lot of people like.
But they're not particularly Fenderish.
They're not like playing these type of guitars here. And one of the main things I have problems with is I play a lot of rhythm, I play a lot of chords, a lot of bar chords, not open chords. And when you were going up, like, just simple G to A, it was the frets were that big, they were actually cutting into the fingers there because they hadn't been finished off very well from the factory in Nashville to
corners do get cut in factories, which is really annoying because it doesn't take a lot of time to dress.
No, I mean, it could have 15 minutes, it could have dressed the edges on here. So in the end, I could have got it dressed, and I just decided, I gave it to my normal guitar tech person who does them, and just said, just refret that. I got it back a few weeks ago, and it is like a different guitar. Saying that, it's still not a Strat though. You will never get that, jingly jangly clean.
No, absolutely.
You just, out of here. But that's what you get. It's that's on a medium sort of gain sound.
Yeah, but it's still got that maple mahogany like honkiness to the sound.
And that's on a neck pickup.
Yeah.
There's some serious sustain.
Yeah.
You know, this is. I sort of get why, you know, Gary Moore went on to the whole, you know, like the whole.
Yeah.
It's just massive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the thing is, that is coming from the wood, it's coming from the timber.
Yeah.
You've got a bit of gain there, which always was the signal, but you've got to have a fundamental sound, I think. In the wood, it's got to resonate, it's got to sustain in the timber to keep the strings vibrating for the pickups to pick that sound up.
On this, and this was a surprising thing, was when I got it back, it got a full MOT, as it always does from the guy. He checks everything over, checks the electrics. And he gave basically a bit like an MOT. He gives me a sheet on everything on it. You know, the height of the frets. He's very thorough with what he does.
For those of you watching in America, because I know a lot of you do, look up MOT on the internet. It's something to do with cars. Just something about having a health check on the guitar. And he measured the output on these pickups. Now, which are Gibson.
They're 61 Zebra burst buckers. Now, these are 7.5 output and 7.3. Now, for the people who sort of know the outputs on that, you'll be thinking, what? That is a similar sort of output to those. You know, they're probably 6.5s, something like that. To give you an idea, that Seymour Duncan is 15 ohms on that one there.
It drives the output.
And that's what drives it. So this is actually got the same output. These are not massive Seymour Duncan humbuckers or a set of DiMaggio PAFs Pros or something like that. They're nothing like Ibanez put in for theirs.
And actually, I don't want to keep coming back to the whole tonewood thing again, but you've got a big sound out of that, and you haven't got massive output from the pickups. Driving the hell out of the amp. There is something fundamental coming out of that.
It's a dining room table.
Yeah, that you aren't getting from the pickups.
Yeah, I mean this thing. I mean you can't on a video get away that the weight on this thing is just phenomenal. 2 hours of this on stage, your shoulder knows about it. I mean, it really does. But I mean, one of the things, and it's not going to be very easy to pick this up, but if I knock the volume off on this thing, and then, you know, just to listen to the, you know, just
it's
just
a good
cheap.
natural sound.
Very soft. It's quite it's not bitey. It's you know, it's huge. You know, you could go. Now, if you just hold that for a second, if we just take this down and do exactly the same chords on here.
Yeah, that is.
Now. Just give me a G.
G.
There's no comparison to the amount of sustain.
Yeah.
So then go to a Strat. You know, again, different wood. I mean, you know, I could two of these will be the weight of that thing.
Yeah.
You know, so better because it is a bigger. It's a bigger body.
Yeah.
Different wood. Said this is older. That's ash.
Yeah.
That's mahogany. We've got 3 guitars here that are completely different. Much bigger. But still nowhere. Nowhere near the sound or the sustain that guitar has.
And the thing is, when playing this, you can feel it.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's doing the job.
Yeah. I mean, if we, like you said, you know, you go back to those, you know, those big 80s chord types things on there, and the Guns N' Roses ones, you can understand why they played guitars like this.
Yeah.
You know, it's like. You know, it's there.
Some of those classic rock sounds.
I mean, one thing I will say is obviously this sounds a bit different because it's not going through, you know, my normal amp. Which is
so you kind of compromise a little bit. You're using my part of my backline.
This would normally go through a 2x12.
Yeah.
What's that? 110?
It's a 112.
112.
Yeah. we are just using the camera mic as well. I haven't actually got a mic in front of the cam.
You know, it's
Cool.
So that's the three of the guitars I brought here. I have another Strat that's in pieces at the moment, which I think we'll probably bring back because it's an identical Strat to this, but with a different wood. So it's great for like doing a comparison. It's just it needs a bit of tender love and
I saw it the other day. Cosmetically, it needs a bit of work.
Yeah, it's an oldish one as well, and it's very road worn. I've taken it back now down. I've taken the paint off it and gonna get it refinished and stuff. And I said I have another custom shop Strat, which is aluminium, so it's a completely different sound again to any of these.
Okay, so talking about the guitars a bit there, where's the rest of the sound coming from? Because as I said, I tend to use stomp boxes straight to the amp. You've got mission control down here. Okay, so this is what you've got. Is it's more than just a floor controller, isn't it? Because this is an effects unit in its own
as well. Yeah. Okay. I mean, the reason why I've got this, you can buy the POD HD500 as a rack mount unit.
Yeah.
But that would mean increasing the size of the rack, which you'll see in a minute, which makes it sort of unmanageable to carry without your own road crew.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to get this in the pubs and bars and clubs and stuff.
So what I'm actually doing with this is, I'm using this as a MIDI floor controller to control the rack, but I'm also using the sounds from it too.
Okay.
So it's doubling up.
So MIDI is like the standard way that all the equipment can talk to.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's the interface, and all it's doing is just sending signals to basically change patches.
Yeah.
MIDI can be as simple or as complicated as you want it to be, and we'll come on to some clever things with this in a second. So, I could use this unit on its own.
Yeah.
And rather than having it running into the rack, I could remove the MIDI lead, which is over here, and I could have my guitar coming in there and that going out to the amp.
Okay, so just straight in and out.
Yeah, straight in and out,
yeah.
The same that you would with a pedal, and just have a very big pedal. And I've used it like that, and I've actually used it live like that, and it's fine. For the value for money, this thing, compared to the effects units of the 80s and the 90s, is very affordable. You can pick these up for hundreds now.
Yeah.
There's a new model out, which is the X, which has got basically a bigger processor in. The thing is, though, moving on to the likes of the Axe FX and stuff like that, which is like the main multi-effects processor at the moment, you're looking at that 5 times more expensive. You're looking at $2,500 for that. You get a lot for it, but it is still a computer making the sounds. So this multi-effects unit, so this is controlling the whole rack. Which, if we move around now to the rack, this is the brain of the rack. This is a looper. Now,
no, that's not a looper, as in like a
no, it's not. It's not
ditto looper
In the back of here, there are 10 ins and outs, basically, a bit like an effects loop. So at the back, and it's a cabling nightmare. And at the end, we'll get a shot of the back just to see what it is. There's 10 loops, and then there's 6 control outputs. So what you have in here is in each one of those loops, we could use your pedals, your pedal boards. We could put each one into a loop, and you then recall a patch. So you have the guitar input coming in here, you have an output out the back that goes to the amp, you then put all your pedals into the loops. So if you just get a close up of here, in here, can you see it's got L, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for the loops, and then it's got switches of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So each patch, can have a couple of hundred patches, can be different combinations. So in the back of this loop, I've got pedals, I've got this pod controller, and I've got these 2 units here. So what we basically have, it's the best of both worlds. You see, coming...
Oh, old school pedals.
Yes, we've got
so you don't have to be all high-tech with this, you can use your box standard stuff.
Yeah, I'm saying you could literally put all your pedals into there. So what we've got is, I've got a noise suppressor, which acts as my power supply for the other pedals. Got a Bad Monkey, which is an absolutely great tube.
Digitech
Bad Monkey, just a great tube overdrive sound. It's just, it's the best thing you'll get to without having a tube amp. I've got a good old trusty Distortion DS1. This is the Line 6 M5 Stomp Modeller. This has got 100 different Stompbox effects. So they've got a tube screamer in there. It's got like a classic distortion, which is a Marshall governor. It's got analogues, reverbs, delays. You can get a good TC delay, you know, if you're going for that edge type of sound. And this thing is so affordable for what it is. You know, one pedal will cost you 50, 60, 70 pounds for a delay pedal by Boss. This you could pick up for about 80 pounds and you get 100 of them. So that's also in a loop. Obviously the only difference with that is you can only use one stomp box at a time. It's not a multi-effects, as in I can't have a tube screamer and a delay. You either have the delay or the tube screamer. But then when you're mixing it with these things, you know, it's
which you can do because it's just combinations of things on that loop.
It's just combinations. The Digitech is my blast from the past from the 90s. It's a multi-effects unit. It's not great on distortions. It's got like tube overdrive, stuff like that. It's got fantastic clean sounds, glistening cleans, volume swells, stuff like that. It's one of those units that it's worthless now. I would be reluctant to ever part with it, just because of, like, you know, the beautiful clean sound that you can get out of it. If we go, I believe that this, and you can see which one's working now because you see that the input on there. So it's just glistening. It's just. And I use that basically just for cleans on there. The Alesis Midiverb is just for reverb, chorus, delay, stuff like that.
So it's more than a reverb. It's modulation.
It's modulation. It will do choruses, flanges. It's got a Leslie simulator on it, reverbs, delays, and stuff. The reason why I've got that one in the rack is because it's one of the few that will allow you to have a guitar input into it and then out into an amp. Most of them like to go in effects loops. So that one's just different. So it's sitting in there on a loop that's on there. So the signal is the guitar, the wireless comes into there, or guitar cable comes in there. The output of the back of there goes into the amp. At the moment, it goes through the noise suppressor. So the output from that goes into the noise suppressor. That boost can come out now. That boost was just there to up the volume from the Telecaster. I don't need it now that I put the Seymour Duncan that's on there. I'm not going to take it out. I'm just going to leave it there in case I ever do want to boost another guitar that's got low output. So the signal chain into there, into the boost, and then just directly into the amp.
Okay.
So these pedals all fit into one of the loops on the back of there. Now each patch, like I said, can because it's controlled by MIDI, as you can see when I go through there, number 10 will load number 10 on there. It will also, if you just have a look over here, it will load number 10 on the top of the line 6, because that is also MIDI controlled, which is the beauty of this unit. So it's got 24 patches. All I need to do is recall which one I want. So I go to number 9 and it recalls 9. The Midiverb is always 1 out.
Yeah.
It starts at 0, 0, where all the others start at 1. So it's always, you know, calls 1 out on MIDI. And then that's when I get the best of both worlds with this. I can have just the pedals, I can have all the digital effects that's on there if I want to use, you know, like loopers and stuff from here, like proper loopers or volume swells or synth type sounds. I can get all that, but sometimes I just want to go back to having just normal sounds. I mean, you know, tube screamer or not a very high output. That's just one patch that's on there.
So what you've got is the common feature across all of this is the MIDI.
Yes.
So you could go out and if you needed to get a replacement for your quad reverb.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Midiverb, isn't it?
Yeah.
You could get something that's a standard form factor. It'll fit into a 19-inch rack.
Yeah.
Everything speaks MIDI.
Yeah.
And you can just patch it in the same way.
I used to have a Sansamp PSA1 in there.
Yes, because there was a noticeable gap there between the two.
I had a Sansamp PSA1 in there that I've had for years, which I sold because I just wasn't using it. I didn't need the sounds. It was like, why would I emulate having a tube pedal when actually I've got a real tube pedal in the rack? That was there before I got this looper built.
Yeah.
Because once I got that built, then I could get all my old pedals that I had back in, and because that Boss was sat in a box for years, and I love the sound. So that's the way that it sort of works. But the one other main thing about this is on here, where we had before, where we've got 10, where we have 10 loops, we have 6 switches, and that enables me to change channels on amps by MIDI.
Wow. So even an old amp like your Fender Twin, which isn't fundamentally
MIDI. So if we come back to here, see I've got two labels on there. One that says I run 2 amps. I've got a Fender Twin and I've got a Hayden, which is like a hand-built American tube amp, 40 amp, which is that
40 amp, 40 watt.
Sorry, 40 watt. Yeah, I hope it's 220 volts and working on 13 amps. So on there, so what I've got here is, so I can knock on the channel switch from there. So when I change a patch here via MIDI, I can say, right, I want this pedal with that effects unit if I want the Midiverb, but I also want it to be on channel 2 or 3 of the Twin.
Yeah.
And the same for the other amp as well. So I can knock the channels on, so every patch can actually control the amp as well, so that we can actually have, you know, a true switching system, so that it does it for the amps.
So you can have one amp or both amps together.
Yeah,
however you got
and whatever channel I want, whatever channel I want on the amp. So actually, I want the clean channel on the Twin, or I want the overdrive, or I want the dirty channel. And again, that's a 3-channel amp. So each on the back of this unit, as I do, and we'll get a shot in at the end, just so we can do it. There's cables coming out on each of the switches. You just run to where the foot switch will go on to the amp.
Cool.
Right, what we've just done is run one of the cables that I would use for my Twin, because most foot switches are the same, use the same technology. So I've run that into the back of this. I've never plugged into this before. So what we have here is we have my clean sound, slightly dirty, and then over here, by knocking the Twin sound on,
so that's now using the dirty channel on the Black Star.
I'm now using the dirty channel on the Black Star, all from here. So I can have one patch that just does it all in one. I'm actually got it so that I'm sending MIDI, what's called MIDI control changes. So I'm sending via MIDI to an analog cable to change the amp, and just taking it back again.
Okay, so we're round the back now at a place I think we call Cable Hell.
Yeah. This is a rack mount 19-inch power supply. So this powers. So what I have is one cable that comes out of the whole thing, that runs to the to a plug point. In everything's like secured on here. You know, it's just like a cable tie everything in just to make sure it's all tidy.
Because obviously you've got to carry this in and out of gigs and stuff.
Carry it in and out of gigs, and the plugs do come out. You know, the weight of them, so everything's cabled in. If we now look here, this one here, this is the looper. So this is where you can see, you know, these are the 2 cables that run to the pod, which are the only long ones. And we then have, you know, loop 2, loop 3, loop 4, loop 5, loop 6, 7, and all the way through to 10. I do deliberately leave spaces in case I want to buy something else and plug it in, because where it goes depends, you know, how the signal chain, you know, you wouldn't want to put like a distortion after certain things or put 2 together. So I leave gaps in between there. And here are the 6 switches. So there's the cable that we just ran before that went into the foot switch on the Black Star. So that's the one for me that just drops down, goes into the bottom of the Twin, and then I have a longer one that goes from these switches to the other amp, because the other amp's on the other side there. And the common thing is the MIDI, so everything is connected together with MIDI leads.
So we're recording this, it's the tail end of 2014. Looking back, what's been your gear highlights of the year? Because obviously you do a lot of browsing around in guitar shops on the internet and so on. What's been good for you gear-wise in 2014?
I think one of the units that you saw before in the rack, which is the Line 6 M5 Stompbox emulator, that, because it's basically, I don't know if they're doing a new model, so they're selling them off at half price at the moment, that is cheaper than a normal pedal, a Boss Delay pedal or a Ibanez Tube Screamer. The thing is, this thing's got 24 patches on it. You can only have one at a time, but it's you can have 100 different stomp boxes in one unit. Now, the way that it is, years ago, there was none of this technology. There was none of this DSP stuff and this, you know, like modelling and amp modelling and stuff like that. Now the fact that all that stuff's around,
and it's really, really good.
It is. It's a different ball game. I used to have a rack. I used to have like Marshall power amps into 2x12s with different units in there, and you know, each one of those cost a fortune. You know, there's I've still got a wireless rack mount guitar wireless, like a professional one from the 90s, that thing was a fortune. Now you can buy them for peanuts.
Yeah.
You saw the wireless that was in here before.
Mm-hmm.
That wireless there is, you know, you can pick. They're this side of £100.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whereas the other ones were the equivalent of, you know, £500, £600, £700 in the 90s, which is, you know, £1,500 now. For people today, the gear is just, it's affordable and it does so much.
I'll tell you one thing you haven't mentioned. I thought you would have been straight onto it. Taylor. Well, we went to that Taylor Roadshow earlier in the year, and it was the T5.
The T5.
T5. Well, if you haven't seen the T5 from Taylor, check it out. There's bound to be some stuff out there on YouTube. It's an absolutely awesome. It's an acoustic. It's an electric. It's a semi-acoustic.
Yeah. It's
your face when you played that.
Yeah, I did. Awesome. I played it. It was the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
You know, I think it had their equivalent of a Fishman acoustic in it. Very thin line, F holes.
Yeah.
They do a cheaper version. The one we looked at was the most expensive Koa top.
You take the home and those,
I mean, it had beautiful binding in the F holes, but it was the best of both worlds in one guitar. And I went back and tried it afterwards. And if it was on the lottery wish list, I'll have a couple tomorrow. Yeah. I think I've started doing another one. There's also a Koa top acoustic that I'm buying with now from Taylor. But I play more electric than I play acoustic. Can I justify having an arse of acoustics as well?
Yeah, that's the thing. You've got to kind of justify. Are you going to get the investment back on it in either emotionally or financially?
You see, there's the thing. It's like, do you buy gear to sell it on? Do you buy gear to make some money on it? Yeah. Now there's people that do.
That's a good question, because somebody emailed me this a little while ago and said, I'm thinking about buying, and it was something like, it was a Fender Strat or something like that. It says, what do you think the resale value is going to be? And I just thought, that's wrong. You haven't even bought it and you're thinking about selling it on. If you're going to buy it, it's going to be tool of the trade. Keep it.
People will buy them and buy custom shop Strats. You know, there's loads of the 60th anniversaries at the moment. There's a custom shop one. People buy them, put them under the bed.
Which I think is a shame. Somebody puts a lot of effort into designing and building these things.
Master build guitar, nicely. And they don't even play them. And I know collectors. I know it was actually the person that I bought that off had the most extraordinary guitar collection I've ever seen. He didn't play. You know, he didn't play the guitar, and he had a 59 Les Paul, he had two 54 Strats. If anyone's got the guitar handbook, you know, the guitar handbook, the 59 Les Paul that's photographed in there is his. Yeah. It still has the tags on it, it still has the original case, so it still has the tag from the shop that it was in. You know, remember, it looks like a luggage label. All that doesn't get played. Okay, it's worth probably millions now, but he's got, you know, that's what he does, he collects them. So all the gear I buy, it's like I never look at it to think like, you know, like, can I sell it on? I do sell gear. I've sold, you know, I've sold Big Gretsch, I sold the green Strat. The green custom shop Strat. I've sold custom shop Strat that I had, and that was down to the fact that it didn't do it for me. You know, it had lace sensors on it, I tried putting normal pickups on, had a huge maple top, and it just didn't sound right. And that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, is how it plays.
You've got
and
to
how
bond with it. Yeah. Because do you find this, because you've played a lot of guitars, I've played a lot of guitars, and I think most people, if you play more than one guitar, you can pick up a guitar and it feels good. It's like if you went and you picked up for me, actually PRS, it's a good example for me, it's PRS. I can go and pick up like a Custom 24 and it feels good. I know I've got a good guitar, but I never ever bond with it. Whereas
it's funny you should say that.
Like that Telecaster, when I built it, built it, it played nicely, and then one day I was just jamming away on it, and suddenly it was part of me. It was an extension, and you've got to have that connection.
I've never been able to play PRSs. Never been able to play them. Don't know what it is. I've never.
But they're good. There's nothing wrong with them.
I've played everything from a 500 PRS to a 12 grand. PRS, and I can't. There's just something about it. I don't know if it doesn't feel heavy enough. What is it supposed to be? Is it supposed to be a Strat? Is it supposed to be a Les Paul? You know, it's that type of thing. It's got a very fast, thin neck. You know, what is it that you're actually supposed to be?
It's because I'm like that. So with PRSs, for me, on paper, it's a great guitar. It's mahogany body, metal top, it looks nice. Great electrics, great sound. But if you can't bond with it, you're never going to play properly. And sometimes it's the one, it's bog standard stock guitar that you've had for 20 years, and it just Yeah, it's part of you.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the Ron Seal of guitars. You know, it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's just a working, you know, bog standard guitar. There's no bells and whistles on that whatsoever. I mean, you can see from that, you know, it's completely aged and it's all natural aging. It's some of this relict stuff. It's, you know, that's what it is. And I didn't go to buy that guitar. I went to buy a red USA with a rosewood fingerboard, and I think this is the first guitar I had with a maple neck, and I will pick a maple neck over a rosewood, like a maple fingerboard over a rosewood fingerboard every single time. Unfortunately, when it comes to 60s ones, the ones with the maples are all 50s, and they're way out of my price range.
So what do you like about the maple? Because the difference is, when it's talking about a maple neck, it is a maple neck, one piece with the neck and fingerboard, whereas with the rosewood, where this one's the same, you got the maple neck and then the rosewood fingerboard on top.
Same with that one. We'll cover this neck in a minute, but it's a brighter sound. Maple necks are always brighter. Yeah, have the fingerboard on top of that. It gives it that extra little bit of what I class as like a Strat sparkle. You know,
that snappiness to it.
That jingle jangle, clean. You know, that sound that you get.
And because it's all part of, I think, like a system of components that works. So you've got the snappiness of the maple fingerboard with the single coil pickups that work well with the treble type of sound.
And it's why, you know, a lot of the 50s ones all have it on. That's why people, and not just because obviously it's the first year, 54, but people try and get their hands on all the 50 ones before predominantly they went to rosewood in the 60s. On the Strats, there's very few that have got maple fingerboards on them. And it's just that little bit sort of brighter. What's unusual about this one is, just while we're on the necks, is this is a maple neck, which is very...
for Les Paul, that's pretty unusual.
This is a maple, and
stains, so you can't really...
you can't really tell, but if you just get it under the light there, you can see how much lighter it is. Because normally it would be mahogany. On a Les Paul it would be mahogany body, mahogany there, and ebony fingerboard. This is a maple neck with an ebony fingerboard, and the reason for it, and one of the reasons why I liked it as well, is it's got a brighter sound. You know, that bit of wood there, you know, that 24 scale, 24.5 it'll be, is... you know, makes, you wouldn't believe it makes a massive difference. You know, I've played this guitar side by side with the same one with a mahogany neck, and it's a much beefier.
Right, the comments section on YouTube is now alight. Because I did a video a little while ago talking about tonewood, and I have never had a reaction to a video like that. I think it's the only video I've done where in the comments section there was like threats of violence upon people's persons. Seriously,
people are passionate about it.
People are passionate about it. And so I want to talk about the whole tonewood debate, and it seems to be a really hot topic at the minute. The idea, if you haven't come across the idea of the tonewood debate, the idea is that a guitar has a fundamental sort of sound based upon the timber that it's made from, and you can hear that acoustically. Nobody's arguing that way, you know, whether it's an acoustic guitar or an electric guitar, the type of timber that you use influences the sound. But when you plug it in, there is a whole camp of people who will say wood doesn't count for anything, it all comes from the pickups. And then there's another camp of people that say no, the whole guitar is like a system, and it's about how the thing resonates and the overtones and harmonics that you get within the timber and how they interact with the string, how it gives the guitar its own voice, and how that influences what comes to the pickups. And I just don't understand the utter hatred that seems to come from people. The people who don't believe in tonewood, the extremes that they go to disprove it. You know, everybody's ears are different as well.
They are. I mean, what we could do is we can, once the other Strat, which is identical to this one, is back in a working fashion, they are identical in every single way.
Apart from that body.
Apart from the body, it's you know, it's even down. Just got the same number of screws. That's an 8-screw scratch plate. The other one's an 8-screw scratch plate.
So it's the same weight of metal in the body.
It's identical. The only thing that the other one has got that this one doesn't is it has 2 string trees on it rather than 1. We can remove one of those.
Cool.
And then you have identical, you know, 2 guitars.
So we'll get back, run it into an amp,
run into an amp.
Speaker emulator from there, DI it, top quality recording on the PC, and then do side by side.
Then you can do side by side with, there is a Strat, and we're talking about like original contour body. There's no difference on the shapes. It's not like these horns here are slightly more pointed than this one. It will be identical in every single way except for older versus Ash.
Cool.
And then you can try that against that one on there.
Alright, look forward to doing that. So that's something for another time.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll knock it on the head there. So thanks for coming in.
No problem.
If you enjoyed doing this sort of style of video rather than me just talking to the camera, as I said, please leave your comments in the comment section down there. And see you next time. Do you want to do the ceremonial pick throw at the camera?
Hang on.
Oh God, prepare for these things. Go pick throw.